right, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month, even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending, zero tears. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
And away we go, episode 1371 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Wednesday, July 22nd, 2026. We now are 1 week away from the first full practice of 2026 Washington Commanders training camp, for which rookies report this Friday, July 24th, and veterans report this Tuesday, July 28th. Football season is nearly here. Football conversation is in the air. NFL analyst Manti Te'o of NFL Network, he on NFL Network's Good Morning Football on Tuesday morning, labeled Washington quarterback Jayden Daniels as the most important player in the NFC East. Here you go.
Jayden Daniels is the most important person in NFC East. Okay. Why? Because when you look at the Commanders, I don't know what I'm getting out of the Commanders. You know, you look at the running back room. You got Bill Krosky-Merritt, young. You got Rachaad White, who was RB2 over there for Tampa for a long time. You have a very thin quarterback room, and you have a very young defense. Now, I know Dan Quinn is a head coach. I know what I'm getting in there. But then you also have an offensive coordinator that has the same amount of coaching experience in the NFL that Jayden Daniels has playing experience in the NFL. But this is what history will tell you. You don't sleep on the Washington Commanders when Jayden Daniels is at the helm. We were sleeping on them in 2024, at least I was, and then all of a sudden they're playing in the NFC Championship game against the Philadelphia Eagles. If Jayden Daniels is healthy, which all reports out of minicamp and OTAs that he looked like his old self, if not better, do not sleep on the Washington Commanders, because if this guy is on his P's and Q's, he is the most important player in the NFC East because he does move the needle that much.
Yeah, I would say that the most important player in the NFC East is either Jayden Daniels or Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott. The most important player in the division is whoever you consider to be the best quarterback in the division. And the best quarterback in the NFC East is one of those two guys. Now, Dak Prescott did have a really good season last season. But if Jayden Daniels is who he was in his all-time great 2024 rookie season, then he's not only the best quarterback in the NFC East, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. How about this on ESPN's Get Up on Tuesday morning? Host Mike Greenberg with ESPN NFL insider Dan Graziano, Kyle Brandt of NFL Network and ESPN NFL analyst Dominique Foxworth. Dominique Foxworth, former NFL cornerback, a product of the University of Maryland, played for the Terrapins for the 2001 through 2004 seasons, went to high school at Western Tech in Catonsville, Maryland. Anyway, here you go.
All right, let me get back to the overreactions here. Graziano, here's the next statement I'm going to make. If I were to say Jayden Daniels and the Commanders are going to win the NFC East this year, is that an overreaction?
It's not an overreaction, entirely within the realm of possibility. This is a team that was in the conference championship game a year and a half ago. The quarterback got injured last year. A lot of other guys got injured last year. They've done a lot of work on the defensive side of the ball. I think, Sonny Styles could be one of the highest impact draft picks of this entire year right away. And if he is, and that defense is better than it was last year, look out with a healthy Jayden Daniels.
Nick, you know how sometimes you'll have this killer debut album and then the second one just kind of flops?
Oh, yeah.
Snoop kind of did it. U2 kind of did it. This is Jayden. What's the comeback album here? Because he has sat here. He was promised the league. You're going to be the future of the league. In that time, he's watched Caleb be celebrated as the coolest young players. On the Madden cover is the best highlight. Drake May is starting a Super Bowl, and he's just like, do you even remember me? I was the guy who was going to take this league over. Mm-hmm. I think he is the most fascinating, pivotal player in the league this year, Jayden Daniels, and I would not be shocked at all, Greeny, if the Commanders win the East outright.
Yeah, it was that Thursday night game, I think, against the Bengals in his rookie year that introduced him to all of us.
Yes.
And then we watched, and he played in the playoffs against the Super Bowl, soon-to-be Super Bowl champs Eagles, and was incredible offensively. He was. The rest of the team wasn't. I think what we expected from him and what we got last year was a hell of a disappointment. But you brought up Sonny Styles, and we see so much of the league moving towards base defense because they have athletes that have the flexibility to play in coverage and attack the run. Sonny Styles might be that type of player that can unlock this defense to take care of these modern offenses that are using 2, 3, 4 tight ends out there more and more.
So there you have it. More love for Jaden Daniels in Washington. If you can't be optimistic about your NFL team right now, when exactly can you be optimistic about your NFL team? Hello and welcome to this Wednesday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. Next segment, the second of two conversations with Howard Gutman assessing the 3-year tenure of the Josh Harris Group owning the Washington Commanders. As Tuesday was the 3-year anniversary of us being liberated from the Danny. Tuesday was the 3-year anniversary of the sale of the Washington Commanders from Dan and Tanya Snyder to the Josh Harris Group. Howard joined us on Tuesday's show, episode 1370, to discuss how the Harris Group has done in terms of football operations. And Howard is back with us on this installment of the podcast to discuss how the Harris Group has done in terms of business operations, including the stadium situation and the name/brand situation. Howard Gutman, former United States ambassador to Belgium, a longtime friend of and strategic advisor for Mitchell Rales, who is the top limited partner in the Josh Harris Group. Howard also is a longtime friend of another key limited partner in the Josh Harris Group, Mark Ein. Now, the ambassador is not here to speak on behalf of the Harris Group, but what he can do and does do is give us high-level perspective and insight and, shall we say, guide us in the proper direction. Pay close attention, especially to what he has to say about that issue of the name/brand. We're going to do a lot on that. And also on the show, I'll talk Washington Nationals. Wild game for the Nats, an 8-7 loss at the Colorado Rockies on Tuesday night in a game in which at least one run was scored in 9 of 17 half innings. No game for the Baltimore Orioles on Tuesday. Their game at the Boston Red Sox for Tuesday night at 7:10 was rained out, and so we have a day-night doubleheader on Wednesday for games 2 and 3 of that 3-game series. Game 1 of the doubleheader Wednesday afternoon at 1:35. The O's have listed Dean Kramer as their probable starting pitcher for that game. Game 2 of the doubleheader Wednesday night at 7:10. The O's have listed Kyle Bradish as their probable starting pitcher for that game. Before we get to feedback, and maybe the greatest sign yet that the saga of San Francisco 49ers receiver Brandon Aiyuk from the Washington Commanders' perspective is dying down, he on Tuesday on Instagram posted a photo of himself wearing a Commander's hat and burgundy shirt, and there was very little reaction. Nobody seemed to care. We have become desensitized to these posts. They no longer mean much because they more and more are coming across as just noise and are not leading to any action. You know, veterans are due to report for 2026 San Francisco 49ers training camp this Saturday, July 25th. As best as we can tell, Aiyuk has not applied for reinstatement from the reserve/left squad list. Until he does that, it's hard to take his desire to play for Washington seriously. As we have discussed, the path for Aiyuk getting what he wants is clear. The path for him getting released and becoming free to sign with Washington, if it even wants him, is clear. A, apply for reinstatement from the reserve/left squad list on which the Niners have Aiyuk and thus do not have to pay him. B, get reinstated. C, show up for Niners training camp, or at least threaten to show up for training camp. At that point, the Niners almost certainly would cut him, because if they didn't, they'd risk being on the hook for his full compensation for the 2026 season if he at camp suffered a season-ending injury. But as you may recall, Aiyuk on July 7th in an Instagram post said of the Niners that he, quote, will not be reinstating with them nor ever doing any kind of business with them, end quote. Well, that goes against this path that I just outlined. I do wonder if deep down inside, Brandon Aiyuk actually doesn't want to play football anymore. If all of these theatrics are a cover for someone who doesn't truly want to play football anymore. This reminds me of the 2011 implosion of Charlie Sheen. Do you remember that? Charlie Sheen, as lead actor on the CBS sitcom 2.5 Men, was making around $2 million per episode. Yes, $2 million per episode. $2 million per ep, as is said in the industry. I mean, that is absurd money, right? $2 million per episode. He, for years, had a substance abuse problem, and he, in 2011, went off the rails, and he got fired. And he, in recent interviews promoting a book and Netflix documentary, has said that he believes that part of his self-destructive behavior was having a feeling deep down inside that he didn't deserve all of the success that he was having. Now, I am not a psychologist, nor am I a psychiatrist. I have no idea how real such thinking is, but according to Charlie Sheen, that was part of what was going on with him. Who knows? Maybe that is part of what is going on with Brandon Aiyuk. Maybe Brandon Aiyuk should talk with Charlie Sheen. By the way, 2.5 Men with Charlie Sheen was a really good show. I was a big fan. The show fell off a cliff once Sheen left. The show was awful with Ashton Kutcher as Sheen's replacement. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. You can reach me via writing a review of the podcast on Apple Podcasts. You can write about whatever you want, and I'll read what you write if you give the podcast a 5-star rating. From Dave Smith on X on the lack of leaks from the Washington Commanders these days, something that we discussed with Howard Gutman on Tuesday's show. Writes Dave, AP and front office only leak what they want to leak. Thank you for that, Dave. Yeah, I'm not even sure that the team has leaked much of anything over the 2.5 years with Adam Peters as general manager. Since Washington hired him as GM in January 2024, how many instances of the team leaking things have there been? That's a hard question to answer because it's not always easy to tell when a team leaks something versus when a player leaks something versus when an agent leaks something versus when an opposing team leaks something. But there have been very few obvious instances of the team leaking anything since hiring Adam Peters as GM. And I go back to Adam Peters having worked in the scouting department of the New England Patriots for the 2003 through 2008 seasons. Peters' formative years as an NFL executive were spent with the Pats during the peak of their dynasty with Bill Belichick as head coach and Tom Brady as QB1. Peters learned under Belichick. There very much are Belichickian qualities to Peters. Email from Mark on our recent conversations with former Washington Redskins salary cap analyst J.I. Wholesale, who currently is the executive vice president of client compensation for a prominent agency in 3 Strand Sports and Entertainment. J.I. joined us on episodes 1362 and 1363. Tremendous analysis on the saga of disgruntled San Francisco 49ers receiver Brandon Aiyuk and his quest to play for the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels potentially signing a mega money contract extension in the 2027 offseason upon becoming contract extension eligible. What J.I. makes of Daniels having his mom as his agent and more. Writes Mark, J.I. Wholesale, more please. He provided awesome insights, both in direct response to your questions and also in tangential comments that he made throughout your interviews. I am not much of a fan of agents and the myriad contractual ins and outs of today's pro sports, but J.I. was one of the best interviews of all time. Thank you very much for that, Mark. Glad that you enjoyed J.I. He is a great guest, a big fan of J.I. And a great podcast is the BGO Blind Pig podcast, which is the official podcast of BGObsession.com, a terrific Washington Commanders forum. Anyone can join. And BGO Blind Pig essentially is the forum in podcast form, a roundtable discussion about the Washington Commanders. It's like you and a bunch of your buddies who are Washington fans are hanging out and talking about the team. The conversation is smart and fun and respectful. You can find the BGO Blind Pig podcast on YouTube and on any major podcast provider. I was fortunate enough to be on a recent episode of the podcast. Make BGObsession.com the home for your burgundy and gold obsession, and make the BGO Blind Pig podcast part of your Washington Commanders podcast rotation. Life insurance. You and your family hopefully never need it, but not having it can make a tragic situation even worse. We have a family friend who lost her husband to cancer. Him not having life insurance made the ensuing years even more difficult. Well, Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You'll just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $32 $8 a month. You'll get your lowest rate from Ethos' network of trusted carriers. And know this, Ethos has a rating of 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 4,000 reviews. Take 10 minutes today to get covered with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/Al Galdi. That's ethos.com/Al Galdi. Ethos.com/Al Galdi. Application times may vary. Rates may vary. Trustpilot rating as of June 1st, 2025.
Imagine buying your kid a toy only to find the batteries aren't included, or buying furniture but missing the tools to build it. Frustrating, right? Now imagine the exact same feeling, but you're paying way more. That is what buying business software usually feels like. Fragmented, disconnected, and incredibly expensive. Odoo completely changes that. Odoo is a complete, fully integrated business suite where all your apps actually talk to each other. We're talking automated lead routing for your sales team, seamless AI integration, and intuitive point-and-click website builder. It's everything your business needs to scale, saving you time, headaches, and money. Stop piecing your software together. Go to odoo.com. That's odoo.com to learn more.
Good to have you with us. Time now for our second of two conversations with Howard Gutman, analyzing the 3-year tenure of the Josh Harris Group owning the Washington Commanders. This past Tuesday, July 21st, marked the 3-year anniversary of the sale of the team from Dan and Tanya Snyder to the Josh Harris Group. As we on Friday morning, July 21st, 2023, had the closing of the sale. Howard joined us on Tuesday's show, episode 1370, to discuss how the Harris Group is done in terms of football operations. And Howard is back with us on this installment of the podcast to discuss how the Harris Group is done in terms of business operations. Howard Gutman, a longtime friend of and strategic advisor for Mitchell Rales, who is the top limited partner in the Josh Harris Group. Howard also is a longtime friend of another key limited partner in the Josh Harris Group, Mark Ein. Howard is the former United States ambassador to Belgium. He was U.S. ambassador to Belgium from August 2009 to July 2013. He is a 1977 graduate of Columbia University and a 1980 graduate of Harvard Law School. He has appeared in several movies and television shows. He is a radio host. Howard is the host of the political commentary radio show As I See It on News Radio WRVA in Richmond, Virginia, and on the Odyssey app. And Howard, for the 2026 season, for a fourth consecutive season, will be co-hosting a Washington Commanders postgame show as he and his son Colin host the postgame gut check on Sports Radio 910 The Fan in Richmond and on the Odyssey app. Howard is a big fan and astute observer of the Washington Commanders. He is a loyal listener of this podcast. You can follow him on X at the Howard Gutman. So if there is an unequivocal success for the Josh Harris Group in owning the Washington Commanders, that unequivocal success is the stadium situation. The Harris Group got the deal done, got a deal for a stadium on the RFK Stadium site in Washington, D.C. done. With the group most wanted with the stadium situation, with the fan base most wanted with the stadium situation, was achieved. Though, of course, this was not easy. We should never forget all that went on with the D.C. Robert F. Kennedy Memorial Stadium Campus Revitalization Act, a crucial piece of legislation regarding the team's next stadium being on the RFK Stadium land in D.C. The legislation appeared dead in terms of the outgoing Congress, but then miraculously, the legislation was passed by the United States Senate at 1:15 a.m. Eastern on Saturday, December 21st, 2024, and the legislation was passed by a vote of 100-0. How this happened is fascinating. You on December 21st, 2024 posted the following on X, quote, Dan Snyder could not get one U.S. senator to support him. Last night, Josh Harris, Mitch Rales, and Mark Ein got every senator to support them. Hashtag, do you believe in miracles? Hashtag, raise hail, end quote. Getting this stadium deal done within the first 3 years of owning the team, major achievement for the Harris Group.
So if you told them it 3 years ago, they wouldn't have been surprised because they would have said, this makes total sense. We're terrific. We know how to get this stuff done. We've got the right lobbyists, but we're also have a pretty convincing case. But no one could have anticipated how rough it could really be. So if you told them it, 2 days before that vote came in, there wasn't a lot of optimism going forward. They literally needed a Hail Mary. And we're talking about you had to have the kind of Hail Mary. On our Hail Mary, the most important part of that play was Jaden creating time in the backfield. The Hail Mary against Chicago, Jaden creating time in the backfield by going left and going right and just launching it at the right moment. That was the best part of the play. It was in Jaden's head about how to get that done or the preparation he had. And that ultimately was the Hail Mary. They had to get unanimity. That could only have been gotten at midnight, the last night that it could happen. And it wasn't a long shot, but it was the only shot. And they did it to perfection. And now the timing is right. They have spent endless time studying stadiums. And when I hear different features that are going to be in there, these are little things ultimately. I was out in SoFi Stadium for the World Cup. I went out with Colin for the World Cup. Of course, we're now spending most of our time in Miami. There was matches 20 minutes from our door, but we had to go see Belgium and we had to go see the U.S. So we had to go to SoFi Stadium to see those teams. And there are features there that I knew to go look at because they had studied them. They have done this with people, with people who love the city, who love the old RFK, who love this team, and they want to be the showcase. And we're all the beneficiaries. For most of this, they're not doing this for them. For lots of people, for Jerry Jones, this has been about Jerry Jones. And for Robert Irsay, this was about Robert Irsay. Josh Harris has had a very successful career and has just raised another fund to be. He can be as successful he wants. And this franchise will go up in value regardless, because all franchises in sports go up in value. They overpaid. This is the famous Al Galdi line that today's overpay, like for a quarterback, is tomorrow's bargain. So they overpaid for this team over $6 billion. And then Seattle just got sold at $9.6 billion. It's gone up almost 60% in 3 years. You can't overpay for this, but they want to give it back to the fan experience. They want to not take a single shortcut. Compare what Jack Ken Cook did with FedEx to what these guys are doing on our next stadium. And every Commanders fan is a beneficiary of the fact that we've got people at the right time in their careers with the right background looking to restore this experience for the DMV.
Maybe the trickiest issue for the Josh Harris group when it bought the Washington Commanders was the issue of the name/brand. Now, the Harris group has said that it is sticking with the name Commanders. But what I believe that the group has done, and I think that this is so smart, is employ a strategy of, okay, maybe we can't have the name Redskins, but we can do all that we can to look and feel like the Redskins. And so we have the logo of the proud Native American warrior being displayed in multiple parts of Northwest Stadium and no longer being censored by the NFL. And we have spear imagery back for the franchise. And we have the new uniforms, which are very similar to the team's uniforms from the Redskins' glory days of the 1982 through 1992 seasons. The team hit a home run with these uniforms. So Washington, this past April 15th, announced 3 new uniforms, a primary white, a primary burgundy, and a black alternate called the Hellraiser. The new uniforms are great, have received an overwhelmingly positive reaction. The team president, Mark Klaus, has been really good speaking publicly about this issue of the name/brand. What do you make of how the Harris Group has handled the issue of the name/brand?
Look, so they have to thread a needle, and I was shocked because I listen every day as you and other callers, and you are just upset. You want the Redskins back, and we understand it. And by the way, we know Josh and Mark Guine and Mitch are not scared to say Redskins. They said Redskins all the time. We recognize we had a fabulous team named the Redskins, and we recognize that now. They recognize now that in 2026, that may have passed, but not our glorious legacy. We are proud. They're clearly proud of the glorious legacy. And so they've got to do it the right way to not offend anyone, but to bring a smile to the Al Galdis and the people who go back. And I don't think Josh is that kind of retail brand guy. Mitch certainly isn't. Mark is closer with his tennis tournament. But they went out and got the guy who figured out how to make Oreo cookies the largest international seller. How you roll that out worldwide? Because Mark Klaus combines two things. He understands branding, but he's the kind of person who said, I give it all up, my position in corporate America, and I'd take a pay cut if I could run the Washington Commanders on the admin side. You talk to Mark Klaus, he loves this team the way Josh loves this team, the way Mark does, the way Mitch does, which is Mitch does because he remembers getting together with his dad, one of the great guys, and his brother Steven and Josh, and going out to RFK Stadium. That was Sunday for the Rales family, just like for the Iron family, just like for Harris. And they want to bring back, they don't want to hide from that experience, but the days of calling a team the Redskins has passed for lots of the league. It's just passed. You can't do that. But they never have hidden from linking the past to the future. And, I proudly wear that Dan Quinn T-shirt that had the feather in it. I love that T-shirt when Dan wore that T-shirt. And I think the new uniforms are fabulous.
So the way that I look at this is, okay, the Josh Harris group with this issue of the name/brand has taken a very methodical, measured, tactical approach. And slowly but surely, progress is being made. There's a long game that the Josh Harris group has to play. And the long game is a game that requires patience and intellect. The way to fixing this issue, to whatever extent it can be fixed, is through measured and strategic behavior. A bull in the china shop type approach does not work in a situation like this. And what I say to people who say, hey, we want the Redskins logo of the proud Native American warrior back is be patient, because what isn't the case today might be the case tomorrow. What was no longer allowed in, say, 2020 might be allowed in, say, 2028. Who knows?
It really is a Heisenberg kind of principle that the last change affects the next change. And so sure enough, they take it a step at a time. I could have told you that the new uniforms would be a debut or two. I think it's 2 games on the schedule. It'll be more the next time, but I think that's kind of, shows exactly it. It's a long game. It's a storied franchise that builds slowly each year on its past. Let's look at John Riggins. Normally in the past, if there was a John Riggins Day, that was because Danny was looking for some distraction or the like, and they would have thrown together a mannequin the last minute of John Riggins. And these guys obviously are like, they're fans. So we need Riggo back in the family. I keep talking about someone needs to go to, I don't know, North Dakota or South Dakota and pull Cooley off a wrestling mat and say, you are a Redskin turned commander. Get back here and be loved. And that's just with John Riggins. That's part of our legacy. And it's easy to do Darryl Green. He was sitting there. It's easy to do B. Mitch. He lives it every day. Riggo, there were the ups and the downs. Riggo is the greatest running back in our history, and he ought to be front and center, and got it this year. And it's not because they were looking for how we're going to sell out a date. That's what you would have said with the Danny. They were looking for how we best going to honor Riggo.
I know that you have some thoughts and insight on the Washington Nationals ownership group, the Lerner Group, including how it compares with the Josh Harris Group. A lot of angst, and justifiably so, from Nats fans regarding how committed the Lerner Group is, how willing the group is to spend on players. What can you tell us?
So this distinction is the biggest way you can appreciate what we have now with the Commanders. Because the only thing you want to ask of ownership is do what you can to produce winning. And for gosh sake, don't get in the way of winning based on your ownership structure. So with the Commanders, you've got people among Magic and Mark and Mitch and Josh who like each other, get along, but believe the same thing, which is we owe this to the DMV to bring back the best franchise, to build the best franchise we can, one that makes us proud and one that wins. And they want to win. What happens now, we have pretty good management, pretty good baseball people in the Nats, but will they spend the money? The ownership structure now not only doesn't foster that, it precludes it. So what's happened with Ted Lerner having passed on, there are 3 separate related groups in the next generation who are the owners. And what I think we'd all like is for them to sell the team to someone willing to invest, so we don't have to try to find projects in Japan to get someone in the All-Star game. We'd like to re-sign Abrams and Woods and Garcia and me. We'd like to re-sign these. This costs money. The ownership structure right now of the Nats is you cannot sell the team without a unanimous vote of all 3 groups. So any one of them could veto. And one of the groups is in charge of running the team and gets a management fee for doing so. So one of the groups is not going to want to sell because this is what they do for a living. There'll always be the value, but this is their life. This is their career. This is what they're doing. But the other 2 groups certainly don't want to be losing money. So we are stuck with people who are worried about the bottom line for 2 of them, but not all 3 of them. So they would just sell to reap the bottom line. So we are in Nats purgatory by the ownership, whereas we are in Commander's heaven is too much, but our ownership is aligned to invest, to build a winner.
Great point about the Lerner Group, because it is very much a group. There's a reason that I say Lerner Group and not Lerner family or Lerners. There is a managing principal owner, Mark Lerner, but there also are 6 principal owners. They are Annette M. Lerner, Marla Lerner Tannenbaum, Deborah Lerner Cohen, Robert K. Tannenbaum, Edward L. Cohen, and Judy Lincoln Lerner. And so you think about the dynamic of the group, and there is a lot to that dynamic. Howard Gutman, Ambassador, thank you so much. All the best.
Looking forward to training camp, and now hopefully a great season. Thanks so much.
All right. How about the perspective from the ambassador, Howard Gutman? You know, going back to that issue of the name/brand for the Washington Commanders, did you see or hear about Mark Klaus not saying no when asked about the possibility of the team further embracing the Redskins logo of the proud Native American warrior? Klaus was on B. Mitch and Finley on 106.7 The Fan on July 9th. We, during that appearance, said this between J.P. Finley, Mark Klaus, and Brian Mitchell.
I am curious on this. Like, since Josh really wrapped his hands around running the organization, and since you stepped in as team president, you guys have done such an incredible job of threading the needle, of embracing the past and moving forward. And are there the crazies on social media that'll still scream about the name? Sure. But like, I think you and Josh and everybody have said, we're not going backwards with the name, and we're Commanders, and you've built the brand of Commanders. Is there any space, especially with the new spear and stuff, for the old logo, whether it's on a helmet, not necessarily on a helmet, but like, could it be embraced in some capacity?
Look, I've said this a lot of times when I'm asked the question, and you know, there's nobody that is more proud and you know, happy to celebrate the heritage of this team than us, and than Josh and the entire ownership group and the organization. I think it's important that, you know, in the world of things I can control, in the world of things I cannot control, is to really try to focus on the things that I can and try to make those as positive as possible. What I will say is there continues to be a lot of emphasis on looking at things in our past, iconography, uniform.
Just the uniform,
right? That we can
so good
that we can celebrate as part of it. So look, hang in there, stay with us. We're going to continue to look for ways in which we can do that while we continue to build, the Commander brand and what we're doing with the team. And I think there's a lot of exciting things that we can do on both sides of that continuum as we try to, bring these worlds together in a way that fans can feel. Even if you're, I get it. I've said this before. I respect it. I understand it. But man, I don't want you to miss out on this next chapter.
Yeah.
We're going to have a lot of fun, and I want you, and I want the families to be out there and be part of it. And so I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make sure that we get everybody back together and moving in the same.
Don't worry about what was so much that you forget about what is and what can be.
And trust, we won't forget that. And
go.
we're going to celebrate it, and we're going to do the right things.
True.
Like this jersey.
Totally.
It's words, not actions. And the actions continue to be consistent with, we are going to honor our past. We know how great everything was. I think the uniform redesigns, the new, like, a great example of what you're saying about like embracing the past and continuing to build are the blacks, the hail rays.
Oh yeah.
Like that perfectly combines these things.
Yeah, it's interesting, in the world of living in this world of brands and brand building along the way. There were just some really clear things. Like you don't want to ever change a brand without bringing equity along with you from the past. And I think, what we've tried to do is go back and correct that, right? A color palette, right? Yeah, I led Oreos. When it was Oreo, when you did something Oreo, that blue was the blue. You didn't change it, you didn't vary from it. And, there's a variety of those things that I think are really meaningful and important to fans that we can absolutely continue to bring and integrate into what we're doing. And, like I said, I just want to see, fans coming along for what I think is just going to be an incredible chapter with what Dan and Adam are doing on the football side, new stadium, the commitment to what Josh is committed to making happen for our fans. And, I just hope everyone's, able to get on board and come with us.
Okay, so Mark Klaus right there clearly was being very careful with what he said, and I don't blame him. But he did not say no. He was asked about the potential for the Washington Commanders to further embrace the Washington Redskins logo of the proud Native American warrior, and he did not say no. He seemed to be saying, we'll see, or maybe even stay tuned. And as I have said, I do think that logo being brought back even more so than it already has is possible. And I'm not just saying that as an opinion. I'm saying that based on things that I've been told. As I said, the way to fixing this issue, to whatever extent it can be fixed, is through measured and strategic behavior. Slow and steady wins the race. And this is the approach being demonstrated by the Josh Harris Group. Hey, please consider subscribing to the podcast if you're not already doing that. Subscribing to this podcast costs nothing. Make sure that you never miss an episode and helps out the podcast a lot. And if you're already subscribing, thank you. Life insurance. You and your family hopefully never need it, but not having it can make a tragic situation even worse. We have a family friend who lost her husband to cancer. Him not having life insurance made the ensuing years even more difficult. Well, Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You'll just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. You'll get your lowest rate from Ethos' network of trusted carriers. And know this, Ethos has a rating of 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 4,000 reviews. Take 10 minutes today to get covered with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/Al Galdi. That's ethos.com/Al Galdi. Ethos.com/Al Galdi. Application times may vary. Rates may vary. Trustpilot rating as of June 1st, 2025. Well, the most hitter-friendly ballpark in MLB for decades has been Coors Field in Denver. If you go by StatCast Park Factor metric, Coors Field for the 2024 through 2026 regular seasons as of games through Monday was number one by miles in MLB in highest park factor, 113. The next highest park factor was 103, shared by three ballparks, including Oriole Park at Camden Yards in Baltimore. Nationals Park in Washington, D.C. was part of a five-way tie for number 5 at 102. 100 is league average. Again, Coors Field, 113. And we on Tuesday night had a Coors Field specialty for the Washington Nationals in Game 2 of a 3-game series at the Colorado Rockies. An 8-7 loss at the Rockies in a game in which at least one run was scored in 9 of 17 half innings. This game was like a ping-pong battle, back and forth, but the Nats did lose. They in MLB's 2026 regular season are back at 500, 51-51 with a run differential of plus 18. The Rockies in this regular season now are a National League worst 41-62 with a National League worst run differential of minus 93. The Nats in this 8-7 loss at the Rockies on Tuesday night used an opener who was relief pitcher Carson Palmquist. He allowed 4 runs in 1 2/3 innings. He tossed a scoreless bottom of the first, but in the bottom of the second allowed 4 runs on a double, 2 singles, a walk, and a hit by pitch. So the opener strategy worked out well in the bottom of the first, but having Palmquist work the bottom of the second did not work out. And then starting pitcher Miles Mikolas came into the game as the Nats bulk pitcher. This in his return from his 5-game suspension for his role in the benches and bullpens clearing incident in the Nats 8-1 win at the Boston Red Sox on June 30th. Mikolas began his outing in this game at the Rockies by getting a big out. He in the bottom of the second with a runner on first, 2 outs, and the Nats down 4-2, induced a ground out by the Rockies' number 3 batter, Hunter Goodman. But Mikolas for the game allowed 3 runs in 3 2/3 innings. He gave up 6 hits, which were a home run, 2 doubles, and 3 singles. He had 1 strikeout versus no walks as he threw a lot of strikes. Mikolas over 66 pitches, 47 strikes, just 19 balls. But Miles Mikolas for this regular season now 21 games, including 8 starts, ERA of 5.60, whip of 1.34. Not good. The Nats in this game used 3 pitchers beyond opener Carson Palmquist and bulk man Miles Mikolas. Orlando Revolta retired each of the 2 batters he faced and getting 2 big outs. He came into the game in the bottom of the 6th with the bases loaded, 1 out, and the Nats down 7-6. And he generated back-to-back 4-pitch swinging strikeouts of the Rockies' numbers 3 and 4 batters and Hunter Goodman and Willie Castro. What a job by Revolta. Matt Crook tossed a scoreless bottom of the 7th despite issuing a walk and giving up a single, but Clayton Beeter allowed 1 run in 1 inning. He in the bottom of the 8th gave up a 2-out full count solo homer by Hunter Goodman to left field despite him having been down in the count at 1.12. So yet again, a Nats reliever fails to get a strikeout when having 2 strikes on a batter, and yet again, a Nats reliever gives up a home run. The Nats for this regular season are dead last in MLB in fewest relief pitching home runs allowed, 75, and are dead last in MLB in relief pitching strikeouts per 9 innings, 7.41. Some more bullpen maneuvering by Nats President of Baseball Operations Paul Taboni. The Nats on Tuesday afternoon announced having recalled relief pitcher Eddie Jean from AAA Rochester and announced having designated relief pitcher Justin Lawrence for assignment. The shame of this 8-7 loss at the Rockies on Tuesday night is that the Nats offense again was really good. 7 runs, 10 hits, which were 2 home runs, a triple, 3 doubles, and 4 singles, 2 walks, 2 for 8 with runners in scoring position. The Nats did strike out 10 times and did make 3 bad outs on the base pass, including 2 outs and runners trying to score from third base on contact plays. But, you score 7 runs, you should win. The Nats' 2 best position players, James Wood and C.J. Abrams, each had a big game. C.J. Abrams, he is the Nats starting shortstop and number 4 batter, went 2 for 3 with 2 2-run homers and a walk. He now has 4 homers over the Nats' last 3 games and having homered in each game. Abrams in the Nats' 2-run first had a 2-out 2-run homer to right center center field for a 2-0 Nats lead. The homer went a projected 423 feet per Statcast. And Abrams in the Nats 2-run third had a 2-out, 2-run homer to right center field to tie the game at 4. That homer went a projected 434 feet per Statcast. C.J. Abrams for this regular season now has 24 home runs and an OPS of 892. James Wood, he is the Nats starting right fielder and number 1 batter, went 2 for 5 with a 2-run double and another double. Wood in the Nats 2-run fourth had a 2-out opposite field 2-run double to left field on an 0-2 pitch for a 6-5 Nats lead. James Wood for this regular season now has an OPS of 957. We with James Wood and C.J. Abrams may be looking at the best offensive duo for the Nats since the franchise moved to Washington, D.C. in the 2004-2005 offseason. If you go by offensive wins above replacement per Baseball Reference for this regular season as of games through Monday, so not counting what happened on Tuesday night, Wood was at 4.5, Abrams was at 3.7, a combined 8.2 offensive wins above replacement per Baseball Reference for Wood and Abrams. The most combined offensive wins above replacement per Baseball Reference for two Nats players in a regular season since the franchise moved to D.C. is 12.4 in 2015, 9.1 from outfielder Bryce Harper, and 3.3 from third baseman Yunel Escobar. Of course, so much of the 12.4 was Harper, who was amazing in 2015, right? Won National League MVP for the 2015 regular season. But the most combined offensive wins above replacement per Baseball Reference for two Nats players in a regular season since the franchise moved to D.C. is 12.4 in 2015. James Wood and C.J. Abrams for this regular season were at 8.2 as of games through Monday. Each guy on Tuesday night had another good game. Are we looking at the best offensive duo for the Nats since the franchise moved to D.C.? The answer may well be yes. And also, with the Nats offense on Tuesday night, Luis Garcia Jr., he is the Nats starting first baseman and number 2 batter, went 2 for 5 with a triple and a single. Garcia for this regular season now has an OPS of 858. The Nats for this regular season remain number 1 in MLB in runs, so that total now is at 559, and included in that is an MLB best 78 first inning runs. 13.95% of the Nats runs have been first inning runs. The Nats have been so good in first innings. Crazy game, the likes of which there have been many at Coors Field over the years. So here was Nats manager Blake Butera during his post-game session with reporters late night on Tuesday night, and then you'll hear multiple follow-up exchanges.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, the second inning, giving up 4 there definitely hurts. I know we scored 2 early on with the CJ home run. But yeah, when you give up 4 in an inning, obviously, you have a hill to climb out of right there. Outside of that, I thought Rebalta was huge coming in there. The bases loaded, giving us a chance to keep us in that game. I thought the bullpen threw the ball well. I know Beater gave the home run there in the 8th. One of the best home run hitters in baseball, and he had a slider, with 2 strikes down. Looked like he was out in front of it too, and still was able to get it out of the park. I think we had guys in scoring position with less than 2 outs, and we just weren't able to convert enough.
What would you like to have seen Palmquist do differently tonight than he did?
Yeah, I think he just had a hard time, getting into counts, getting into leverage, and putting guys away. Just felt like early count base hits. Just had a hard time keeping those guys off balance.
Is there anything you would want your players to do differently in those contact plays at third in those situations?
No, you know what? With 1 out there, we're going to run contact. Just especially with where we're at. Just really 2 unfortunate ones. You can't try and guess where the ball's going to be hit. You just got to go on the ground, because if you hesitate and wait to see where it's hit, you're going to be out. Pitcher made a heck of a play. Lorenzen on that ball right back to him. That was hit pretty hard. And then Castro made a nice play up the middle there. And Nas is running his tail off, trying to get to second base. Dalen's trying to stay in the rundown. Tagged him out early there. I thought Nas was going to be able to get back to first, but he just slips and loses his footing there. And there's not much you can do. At the end of the day, we're asking these guys to go 100%. And Nas busting out of the box, knowing that there's going to be a play at home plate, just doing everything he can to get in the scoring position there. We asked these guys to play at full speed, and that's what he did.
How have you seen Beater kind of handle this stretch from an emotional level in particular?
Yeah, frustration. He has high expectations for himself, as do we for him. Yeah, he wears this stuff on his sleeve. He's frustrated with it. He knows he can be better. And look, he was really good for us in Sacramento. And just one pitch that I don't even know if it was that bad of a pitch. Outside of that, the first two guys, I thought he looked great.
Like after tonight, do you tell him there's nothing you could have done differently?
Yeah, I'm going to tell him we still believe in him. Like, keep going out there, keep throwing it. The first two guys, I thought he looked really good. I was almost thinking we're going to be able to send him back out there for the ninth. And then, of course, that home run happens.
You guys have believed in Ribalta a lot. The bases loaded, and teams are now 0 for 10 against him in those spots. Is there something to that, or is that just happening to make good pitches at the right time?
I think he's just somebody that he does a really good job of just staying in the moment and not getting too high or too low, and he just focuses on executing pitches. Like, he can care less what the situation is he's coming into. He just wants to get the hitter out. And that was huge for him coming in there with the bases loaded, one out, on Goodman, and getting him and the next guy to get us back in.
CJ, again, has been pretty consistent this season, but it feels like the highs are even higher than years past. What do you attribute that to, and what have you seen from him in this recent stretch?
Yeah, I mean, he stays on it. Like, that's the thing is, when he starts going through it a little bit offensively, he's able to kind of get back on track pretty quickly there. I think our hitting coaches do a really good job of getting him back to, like, hey, what makes him really good. And sometimes it's easy to get off of that when you're playing this many games and you're facing this many different arms, and some days you're not feeling as good. But when you get back to simplifying your plan, simplifying your approach, he's able to do what he did tonight, which is pretty impressive.
Yesterday we were talking about with the upcoming trade deadline how these upcoming few games could determine the direction that the team goes. When you have a close game like this, does it linger more because you are approaching the deadline, or does it irritate you just as much as it did in May?
Yeah, I mean, it stings. These losses aren't fun by any means, no matter what our record is, where we're at in the season. It was a game we felt like we could have won. We didn't play very clean baseball. But we've talked about it. We know, these guys all know that where we're at in the year with the trade deadline looming, of course, and they know they have a chance in front of them to make a run at this thing, or if we slip back, it could mean something differently. But these guys want to win, and they're frustrated right now. You can feel it, how badly they want to win in the dugout. And at the end of the day, when you're playing meaningful baseball games this late in the season, there's a lot to be said for that, and there's a lot to be learned from that.
And it is nice to have the Nats playing meaningful games. The Nats, as I record this at, let's see, what time is it? 1:05 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday, are 1.5 games behind the Pittsburgh Pirates for the National League's third of 3 wildcard spots. Meantime, coming out on ESPN.com on Tuesday morning was an updated ranking of 100 potential trade candidates and top potential fits regarding the 2026 MLB trade deadline, which is on August 3rd at 6 p.m. Eastern. The piece was co-authored by ESPN MLB insiders Jeff Passan and Kylie McDaniel. There were 2 Nats players on the list as trade candidates: shortstop C.J. Abrams at number 9 and starting pitcher Foster Griffin at number 26. Starting pitcher Zach Littell, who previously had been ranked, was not on the list. The Nats came up among the potential fits for the following trade candidates: Minnesota Twins starting pitcher Joe Ryan, Los Angeles Angels starting pitcher Reed Detmers, Los Angeles Angels starting pitcher Jose Soriano, and San Francisco Giants second baseman Luis Ariz. Now, the piece only had potential fits for each of the top 25 trade candidates, most of whom were not relief pitchers. Of course, the Nats' biggest need is relief pitching. They interestingly were not listed as a potential fit for the 2 relief pitchers in the top 25, San Diego Padres closer Mason Miller and Boston Red Sox closer Aroldis Chapman, although the Red Sox have won 14 consecutive games and are very much in postseason contention. I don't see them trading Chapman. The Nats, though, have not made a buy-side trade regarding an MLB trade deadline since the 2019 MLB trade deadline, July 31st, 2019, when the Nats acquired reliever Daniel Hudson from the Toronto Blue Jays and acquired relievers Hunter Strickland and Roenis Elias from the Seattle Mariners. Who remembers Roenis Elias? But 2019, 7 years ago. Are the Nats about to be buyers regarding an MLB trade deadline for the first time since then? Game 3 for the Nats at the Rockies Wednesday afternoon at 3:10. The Nats have listed Cade Cavalli as their probable starting pitcher for the game. And that'll do it for you and me for now, but there's more to come. Thursday's show, episode 1372, will include a lot for you on the Washington Commanders. Also on Thursday's show, I'll talk Washington Nationals and Baltimore Orioles. The Nats are at the Colorado Rockies Wednesday afternoon at 3:10 for Game 3 of a 3-game series. The O's are at the Boston Red Sox on Wednesday for a doubleheader for Games 2 and 3 of a 3-game series. Game 1 of the doubleheader Wednesday afternoon at 1:35. Game 2 of the doubleheader Wednesday night at 7:10. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I'll talk to you on Thursday.
This is what history will tell you. You don't sleep on the Washington Commanders when Jaden Daniels is at the helm.